Good to see you today. We're going to be looking once again at the account at Mount Carmel with Elijah and Ahab today. Our hymn is, O God of Earth and Altar.
O God of earth and altar, bow down and hear my cry. Our earthly rulers falter, our people drift and die. The walls of golden tomb us, the swords of scorn divide. Take not thy thunder from us, but take away our pride. From all that terror teaches, from lies of tongue and pen, from all the easy speeches that comfort cruel men, from sale and profanation of honor and the sword, from sleep and from damnation, deliver us, good Lord. Thy in all living tether, the priest and prince and foe, bind all our lives together, smite us and save us so. In thy grand exaltation, aflame with faith and free, lift up all living nation, a single sword to thee.
God of Earth and Altar. Let's look in 1 Kings chapter 18 now. This is right after where we left off yesterday. It says, Then Elijah said to Ahab, Go up, eat and drink, for there is the sound of abundance of rain. So Ahab went up to eat and drink, and Elijah went up to the top of Mount Carmel. Then he bowed down on the ground, put his face between his knees, and he said to his servant, Go up now, look toward the sea. So he went up and looked, and said, There's nothing. And 7 times he said, Go again. Then it came to pass the 7th time that he said, There is a cloud as small as a man's hand, rising out of the sea. So he said, Go up, say to Ahab, Prepare your chariot, and go down before the rain stops you. Now it happened in the meantime that the sky became black with clouds and wind, and there was a heavy rain. So Ahab rode away and went to Jezreel. Then the hand of the Lord came upon Elijah, and he girded up his loins and ran ahead of Ahab to the entrance of Jezreel. And then, of course, chapter 19, and Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had done. But you know, there was something in this passage that I never considered before. Elijah says to Ahab, Go up, eat and drink. And the commentators talk about the idea that perhaps because all of a sudden there's going to be rain. And I don't know too much what to make of it. That go up and eat and drink. I don't know if it's just simply refresh yourself. See, Ahab, and here's the thing. In order, Elijah says go up. Well, why do they have to go up? It's because they had come down. They brought them down to the brook Kishon, or Kishon, or however you pronounce that, brought them down there and executed them there, all those prophets of Baal. And so, obviously, the king, Ahab, came with that whole group of people. So those people, it may well be that the king consented to their execution. I mean, I'm sure Ahab would have loved for the prophets of Baal to have been crying out to their God, and Ahab would have loved it if Baal would have showed up and done his thing. Well, Baal never showed up. And it's like, fella, you're the king of Israel. You're married. You've married Jezebel. Her God's a no-show. And now the God of Israel's showing up. Ahab had a front row seat to all this. Ahab had come down there as they were executing those men. Ahab may have consented to it. And so when it's all said and done, Elijah says, go up, go back up, and eat and drink. I don't know if some commentators think it's refresh yourself. Some commentators think that it's a part of post-sacrificial activities. Don't know. The Lord consumed all that, everything that Elijah had done, the Lord consumed every bit of that, so. But regardless, Ahab had a front row seat. And so when they go up, and I just think it's interesting to think about. There's different ways we might consider. What was Solomon like? What was Solomon like before his wives? What was Solomon like without his wives? What was Samson like without his wife? What may Ahab have been like without his wife? Jezebel's not here. Jezebel's not there. Jezebel's not at Mount Carmel. It's like this is just Ahab. This is just Ahab. And the victory is pretty obvious who the Lord is. And Elijah says, go up and eat and drink. The rain's coming. And Ahab goes up to eat and drink. And Elijah comes up. And then you have all of these things happening with the servant. And there Elijah was, bowed down to the ground. And then the servant says, there's a cloud as small as a man's hand. And Elijah says, you better prepare your chariot and go down before the rain stops you. And then the sky turns black and the clouds and the wind, and there's a heavy rain. And I was just thinking about Ahab's the king of Israel. And it's just sad. There is a time when Ahab humbles himself. You can look that up for yourself. But it does happen. I think Ahab, like others that we see in Scripture, Jezebel ruined him. What could Ahab, what would or could, or however you want to think about it, what could he have been like without Jezebel? And here he is, eating and drinking, seeing God's obvious power at the top of Mount Carmel. And then he comes home and he tells Jezebel. And Jezebel flies into a rage. Jezebel sends a messenger to Elijah saying, so let the gods do to me more also, if I do not make your life as the life of one of them by tomorrow about this time. O God of earth and altar, bow down and hear our cry. Our earthly rulers falter, our people drift and die. The frailties of kings, the frailties of the kingdoms of men. All the easy speeches that comfort cruel men. We set our mind on things above. We're thankful for the Lord. Appreciate you. Hope you have a good day. Join us tomorrow for another portion of our daily praise.